Hi, this is Lynette from Nettie Reads Too Much, bringing you another video. I thought that this time I would go with telling you about the books that I read in June. I have read a total of 8 books this month. One of those was a 3-star read, 6 were 4-star reads, and the final one was a 5-star read. I listened to one of those as an audiobook, and one of those was also an ARC sent to me by the author a couple of weeks before release for an honest review. And one of those books is a brand new release for June as well. So I think I did quite well. I read all older books. They weren't all from my list of books that I needed to read this year. But I have read older books, so in a way I have kind of read things off of my TBR. So without further ado, let's actually get into the detail of the books. The audiobook that I listened to was Dear John by Nicholas Sparks. I'm not sure if you can get that on there. I listened to this on my walk to work. I actually walk to work. I listened to this on my walk to work and while I was pottering about in the house. I've given it 3 stars because I don't think I really connected with the story. I don't know whether it's audiobook or if it's just this book in particular, because I have read another Nicholas Sparks recently and I did really enjoy that one a lot more than I did Dear John. As many of you may know, Dear John is about John and Savannah and how they meet, fall in love, and where their lives take them after they make certain decisions. And although it doesn't have a happy ending, I will warn you, although there is romance, it doesn't have a happy ending for John and Savannah, but their lives do move forward, and it's more of a realistic ending rather than the lovely romantic endings that those of us who read romance are normally used to. The first of the 4-star reads was the ARC that I received from an author, and that ARC is Roaming Wild by Tracy Devlin. As I say, I received that on the premise of an honest review. I have given it 4 stars because I did thoroughly enjoy it. It didn't blow me away, which is why it has not got that single star read, but it did keep me reading. It is the latest in the Steel Ridge series, which is written by Tracy Devlin, and I think there are a couple of other authors who have written books for the series as well. The story follows Evie and Deke. Evie is from the Steel family, hence the name Steel Ridge, and she's a nurse. Deke is her older brother's best friend, and he works for the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. But he works for an elite ops unit who investigate real serious wildlife crimes. Evie works on a mobile nursing unit, and Deke sees this as a way to get out into the community to investigate a crime he's looking into. They've been in love with each other for years. However, neither have, because of age differences and because of familial commitments, they've never really gotten together until now. So this is the story of how they get together, how they find the family consent for them to be together, and also it is a bit of a suspense. Like I say, the surrounding crime that Deke is investigating plays a part in their romance, and ultimately brings them together in the end. It does have a happy ending, so it's not going to leave you dissatisfied at the end. It is one of a series, but you don't need to have read the previous books in the series to read this one. You can read it as a standalone, and if you like your romance reads, I would highly recommend this one to you. The next book that I read this year, again another 4-star read, is The Book of Life by Deborah Harkness. I'm not sure if you can see that very well. This is the final book in Deborah Harkness All Souls trilogy, the previous books being A Discovery of Witches and Shadow of Night. I've given this 4 stars because I did enjoy the writing. I like Deborah Harkness. I like the story. However, I think maybe not having read the first 2 recently might have hampered me a little bit with this one. I didn't really remember what had happened in the previous 2 books when I picked this one up, and in fact I've actually had this one on my TBR for 3 years now. So it was high time I got to it, but I think I should have done a reread of the first 2 books before I got to this one. It is the conclusion of Diana and Matthew's story. I felt a little dissatisfied with it at the end. I must admit, I think everything may have been wrapped up too neatly, but then I think there are still maybe loose threads that haven't been wrapped up as neatly and need addressing at some point. Whether she intends to write more, I don't know. I actually haven't looked into Deborah Harkness to see if she has written more books, because if she has, I would like to read them. From there I moved on to more romance. This time I moved on to books by Corinne Michaels, the first one of which is Consolation, and the second one, which is the follow-up, oh, there we go, oh, I'm not sure if you can see that one, the follow-up, Conviction. They are a duet. They're a duet within a series of duets. So they are 3rd and 4th in the Salvation series, but they are books 1 and 2 in their own right. Again, a good solid 4-star romance read. It's the story of Liam and Natalie. Natalie's husband has been killed in active service, and Liam was her husband's best friend and comes to look after her and see how she's doing after his best friend's death. And slowly but surely they come to find love with each other, and it's their story. It does have a happy ending at the end of the 2nd book. There is something that happens in the 1st book which obviously throws a spanner in the works for them, but then they have to work through that in the 2nd book. Again, very well written, good solid 4-star read. I would actually read more by Corinne Michaels, and if you want something light, not too heavy, I would recommend these to you as well. So from there, and it's the only book cover I don't have to show you because it was a library borrow and I've already taken it back. It was Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas, the 2nd book in the Throne of Glass series. I'm having a bit of a love-hate relationship with this series. I've currently got Heir of Fire on the go, and I think I'm about 100 pages into that one. It took me a little while to get into Crown of Midnight, but once I did get started, I couldn't put it down. I'm enjoying the series, I'm enjoying the premise to the series. I want to know what's happening, and that's what's keeping me reading. I don't really like Selena and Dorian, 2 of the main characters. I like Chaol. I think he's a good character. I think he's great. He has his flaws, he has his problems, he also has his good points. And I understand there is a book coming out that's going to be part of his story rather than part of Selena's story. So I'm going to try. Heir of Fire at the moment I'm working through. I am enjoying what I'm reading. I just struggle with Selena. I think she's a bit of a brat, and I think she's a bit spoilt, and I just don't like her, to be honest. So I'm really struggling with that, but I'm going to try and finish Heir of Fire. I think if I don't finish it by this next round, because it is another library borrow, I think I'll probably take it back this time around if I can't finish it before the next return date. So from Crown of Midnight, I then moved on to a childhood favourite, and I moved on to The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis. The these were a childhood favourite. Chronologically, it's the first of the Chronicles of Narnia books, and I decided that I wanted to reread these books this year. I have been reading younger books, and Chronicles of Narnia is ones that I've had on my shelf since I was a child. Always enjoyed reading them, and so I decided I'd do a chronological reread. I've read them in publication order before, but I thought this time around I would do it in chronological order and see where we go from there. So again, 4 stars. The 5th star is because it ended and I'd forgotten how short a book it is for an adult to read. I did thoroughly enjoy it. I can't wait to move on to the next one, and to get through the series. The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe is my favourite, and the second favourite being Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I have seen the recent remakes of the films. I loved the Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe film, Voyage of the Dawn Treader and Prince Caspian not so much. So hopefully in the next few months I'll be showing you my thoughts on those. But yes, Magician's Nephew is the telling of how Narnia came to be, how the White Witch got into Narnia, and Aslan and the first children that were seen in Narnia, how Narnia became populated, and how humans ended up in Narnia as well. I always forget that part of it until I get to it, but it also tells you how humans who came to Narnia and became part of Narnia, not just the talking animals that Aslan creates. So from there, I think that's all the that's all the 4-star books. So then the last book to tell you about is the 5-star book, and this was the new release, and it's the second in a duet, and it's The Catch by Kay Bromberg. It's the second of the Player duet, the first book being called The Player. The Player came out a few months ago. Christy, Kay Bromberg, didn't keep us waiting too long for the follow-up, which is The Catch. It's the conclusion to Easton and Scout's romance. It's based in the world of baseball, and it follows on straight from the end of the first book and concludes their story, and it has a happy ending. So again, not a disappointment for those who don't like happy endings. There is a cliffhanger at the end of the first book, so if you don't like cliffhangers, be prepared to want to carry on and read this book, The Catch, straight away. We had to wait a few months for this one. Please excuse me. We had to wait a few months for this one, but not too long. We knew it was coming. I follow Kay Bromberg on her other media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, etc., and she does tweet all the time, so we know, as readers, we know what she's got coming for us, and she is very active with her readers as well. I'm a big fan of her books, very well written. They're romance novels, but there is a lot of plot in there, and they are very well written. The romance and sauciness and everything doesn't overtake her stories, so it is a very, very good read, and I do recommend Kay Bromberg novels to all of you out there that like romance. So that's everything I read in June. I had quite a good reading month. 8 is a good solid number for me. It varies the number of books I read. I don't put pressure on myself to read lots of books a month. If I read one book, I read one book. If I read 20, I read 20. It's all the same. As long as I've enjoyed it, I don't mind. So that was my month, and I hope you all had a good reading month last month and enjoyed everything you read. I hope none of you had DNFs, and I look forward to talking to you again in a future video. Bye.